Retro.
Yeah.
Electro. Tech.
Oh yeah.
Hey, turn the lights back on. Wow. Retro Electro Tech. When real audio ruled the world.
Hello there once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Retro Ernest of Retro Electro Tech. So on the bench, obviously we have a pair of speakers, a pair of Pioneer model CS99, that's Charlie Sam 99. These are 80 watt speakers, 8 ohms. Now the speaker with the back facing us is the one that the customer has a complaint about, and that is that there's some kind of a connection issue going on. So I'm going to evaluate that just very straightforward, just get them hooked up and see what there is going on. The customer asked if I could, of course, take a look at both speakers and just check connections, bolster up connections as needed, and he also asked if I can rebuild or refurbish the crossover circuitry. So I'm going to take a look, see what's involved there, what's going on. Probably, of course, clean these switches on the back, so forth, so on. Just again, evaluate connections and hopefully get everything worked out. So let me get these things hooked up and see what's going on. Okay, so in the interest of time, I've been running different frequencies through these speakers, and the one with the X on it that the customer believes is the problematic speaker, or the more problematic of the two. It turns out it's not. I don't know if he marked it incorrectly, but anyways, regardless, I'm going to turn up the volume here, and I have a 300 and I believe 15 hertz tone or something like that piped in right now. I don't want to, I don't want to play anything that's too ear piercing. But you'll notice that when I just bring up the volume, it's fine, it's steady and all that, and it's been steady. Now if I move the the 1/4 inch jack around a bit, I really have to move it around, and it'll kind of cut in and out a little bit. So I do believe that the connections in general can use a little bolstering up, clean out these jacks and all that, great. And as far as these switches are concerned, these level switches, decrease, normal, increase for the mid and the highs, that has no influence whatsoever. Even when I was putting mid-range and high frequencies into these switches on both of them are pretty stable. This is a speaker here that seems to be the problematic one. But anyways, let me just start by bringing up the tone that I have fed in real quick. Okay, I know that's a little rough on the ears, but if I move it around, not too bad. I'll get a little bit of, sometimes I get a little bit of, crackle or cutting in and out, but definitely not bad. Let me turn that down and move it to the other speaker. Okay. All right, let me bring up the volume again. Okay. See what I mean? And it's probably hard to tell on your end because of this tone, but just on its own, it even sometimes gets a little bit lower, then a little higher. See? So definitely more of a connection issue going on this speaker. Let me turn that tone down. Okay, so like I said, I am going to go in. I'm going to start with this speaker first. I'm not going to do both speakers on camera. I'm just going to, of course I'll take a look at both of them and bolster up the connections on both of them. I'll clean the switches anyways, even though there doesn't appear to be any issues going on with any of these switches. So, moral of the story, I'll pull the back off this one for starters, clean up the connections. I'll clean up the jacks, I'll resolder the connections, all that stuff, and take a look at the crossover circuitry and see if it's something that I want to take on as far as recapping and all that. It's just, I'm very busy right now, and unless there was something really significant going on, I just don't want to get too bogged down with stuff and hold up other work and all that. I mean, I'm sorry, to the customer, I'm sorry. I'll do the best I can with your speakers, but I think these things are just fine other than these connections. That's why I'm not really volunteering to go all out and start doing a bunch of stuff. But let's see what the crossover circuitry looks like and whatnot. Also too, I do want to say, just for the record, even though, and not to toot my horn, but I am good at working on speakers as far as reconing in extreme cases, refoaming, all that stuff. The thing is though, I really don't enjoy doing it. It's not something, we all have our things we like to do. Certain types of equipment we like to work on more than others. But unless there was something going on with the economy, a major recession, a depression, and the only work I could get is working on speakers and reconing and refoaming, well, yeah, I would do it so that I could eat. But other than that, you know what, if I'm not starving or anything, then I really just don't volunteer to do it. So I'm bringing that out, not to be a wiseacre. I'm just bringing that out because I don't want to start getting a lot of requests after these videos where I do a little work on speakers once in a while. But something like this where it's just some connection issues and all that, I don't really mind it. But other than that, not something I dig. So anyways, enough of that. Let me go ahead and get the cover off the back and take a look at these connections. Alright guys, so here we are. It's all opened up. Let me scan around. I'll zoom in for you all. Okay. Here is, in all of its glory, a Pioneer CS99. Okay y'all, so here we are looking at the crossover board, network, all that. So let me just squeeze in here without banging into the tripod like a big rhinoceros and all that. So anyways, so let me explain what I'm willing to do versus what I'm not willing to do and why. So I am going to bolster up all of the connections on the switches. Wherever there's a solder joint, I will very carefully, because some of these little areas in here, you got to really watch out with your dwell time and all that. You just got to hit them. But a lot of these solder joints actually look very good. But just for the sake of thoroughness, I'll probably just do some quick reflowing. Some solder joints do look a little bit, but all of them basically look okay. They don't look too bad. So obviously there wasn't someone in here that shouldn't have been in here working. So that's good. That's a plus. But what I'm going to start with is bolstering up the connections around these inputs, this 1/4 inch jack here. In fact, what I already did is that I did push this spring here, this spring contact, a little bit forward, just so that when the 1/4 inch jack is plugged in, if the customer is using these 1/4 inch jacks, he might be using these spring terminals here. Either way though, even the inside of those spring terminals that you insert the wire in, I'm going to clean those out, solvent clean them, run a little tiny brush in there and really clean them out. And the spring tension in those is definitely good. I could vouch for that because I tried the spring terminals of both speakers, and those are okay. So once I get the solder joints all bolstered up, get those all cleaned out, clean this 1/4 inch jack, which is what the customer might be using, I don't know. I'm going to get my scratch pin and I'm going to buff out the contact here. I already bent it inward a little bit so that if he does use it and plugs it back in, there's plenty of spring tension making contact with the 1/4 inch jack there, with the 1/4 inch plug, I mean. So, but I will touch up the solder joints for sure in this area. Same thing with these switch contacts here. I'll go ahead and bolster all that up. As far as the capacitors are concerned, I'm not just going to go through and do a shotgun recap. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, if these caps here, these axials, are reading good, these are good caps here. They look like what, sprayed caps, but these are some good caps here. It wouldn't surprise me if all of them are reading okay, or at least most of them. Now, if there's, I'm going to go through and I'm going to, use my little, capacitance ESR meter here. And I'm going to go through, and the ones that I have to lift out of circuit to get an accurate reading, I'll go ahead and do that. Again, if I see any readings that are no good, then yes, I will end up replacing a cap. And I'm sure they're, for the most part, fine. So, but if for some strange reason it turns out that all the caps are bad, which I know they're not, then yes, I'll end up recapping and do what's right and all that stuff, but the customer will probably have to wait a little bit on that because I just got so much to do right now. But so probably in the coming maybe week or two, I'm going to get back on this and solder all this up and start pulling some of these leads from circuit, testing them out, and if they're all good, great, they're going to stay. But the one thing I will reassure the customer is that unless there's something else going on that I don't know, which I absolutely doubt. I'm about 99.9% sure that it's just the connection because, well, I evaluated it and I saw that it pretty much was. I don't see anything else going on. So I'll get everything squared away, and then I will put these speakers through the test here in the shop, and boy, oh boy, will I like to put these speakers to the test. And I'm going to have some fun with these speakers and listen to some cool tunes on them because these are some really nice speakers. Oh, and also too, I forgot to mention, and let me get organized here. Let me back out. Well, I kind of already am, at least as far as I'm able to go. So let me just kind of lock it here. Another thing I am going to do is, let me move the light a little bit because that's kind of dark and scary in that speaker cabinet. So, yeah. So I will evaluate solder joints. You got to be super careful when you're soldering around speakers. I think a lot of you know that. But anyways, like some of these spade clips that just pull off here. Yeah, that one's on there pretty tight. I'm not even going to pull on it too hard. I'm satisfied that that connection is good. That thing is nice and tight. So, but let me try this one for example. Yeah, that pulls off pretty good. It wasn't loose or anything. But okay, like for example, that spade terminal up in here. I'll get my jeweler scratch pin. I'll buff out these terminals wherever there's these spade connectors. And sometimes, like if a spade connector is loose, you can retension them. You can get like some needle nose pliers and just very gently give these spade terminals a squeeze. You don't want to crush them too tight to where you're going to have a bear of a time pushing them back onto the spade terminal. But you could just give them just a little bit of a squeeze, and again, I'll solvent clean the spade terminal as well, a little contact cleaner. I have some little tiny micro brushes, and sometimes even little pipe cleaners you could stick in there and just kind of give them a little scrub. A jeweler scratch pin on these, just buff them out real nice, and then stick these back on. If they need retensioning, again, you can retension them so they go on nice and snug. No chance of a loose connection there. So I'm going to go through and do stuff like that on these speakers, and so my main objective is just to make sure that all the connections are bomb-proof, absolutely bomb-proof. And again, down here, all the solder joints are absolutely bomb-proof, and these capacitors are reading, within tolerance. And if they are, leave them alone. If not, I will replace the ones again that need to be replaced. So guys, that's really about it. That's what I'm going to say in this video. I know what's going on here. I'm going to do this on both speakers. This speaker is the problem one. It wasn't the one that he put the X on, but they're both going to get the same treatment pretty much. And by the time I hand these back to him, these things aren't going to be getting all fickle unless something else goes wrong that happens later on down the road. But otherwise, that's about it. So I'm going to leave this here. As I always say, guys, peace, love, music, and the vintage audio that brings it to your ears. Till next time, y'all take care.
This has been a Spinning Head production.